Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully you all are having a fantastic Tuesday so far. A bit of a surprise live stream. I just wanted to get on here real quick and talk about this upcoming severe threat, not only today, but for the next few days. Let's see what we have here in the chat so far. We have Weather Warrior, Logan, Confused, Livid, Samuelson, Haley, Robert, and everybody else who is watching and may not be chatting. Glad to have you here for another live stream. I guess I'll just wait the extra 15 seconds here. I thought 40 seconds would be not enough time, but turns out it's a little bit more time than what I actually needed. Welcome, media, as well. Glad to see you back in here. And yeah, let's go ahead and dive right on into this. Do a quick double check. We are good to go. Switch scenes, and I finally got the overlay there at the bottom. It finally won't show the flash flood alerts. The pop-up might, when it pops up, I actually have to fix that after this live stream. I didn't think about that till just now. So I'll fix that after sometime in the future. I won't be able to do it right when I end because I have something I got to do right after I end this stream. So I'm fitting in this live stream in a little hour window right here. Thank you, Robert, for becoming an EF1 member. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for supporting the channel more than you already do. I really, really appreciate that. So let's go ahead and dive on into what we're seeing here across the country. Looking at our current radar, it's really actually some of the most inactive radar at 4 p.m. we've had in a very long time. In the last couple days, about this time, over like the last week or so, we have had just a bunch of severe warnings, just an insane amount, whether it be down in Georgia, Alabama, Florida, or back up specifically where it's been the most is just east of the Rockies into Colorado, Wyoming, Texas, New Mexico. That's where the bulk of those warnings have been. And then we've also had a couple tornadoes up there towards Maryland and Virginia since I was last live. I was just unfortunate timing for when that event started for me to continue a live stream on that. But I do think we did a briefing earlier in the day, if I recall correctly. I did a quick briefing an hour or so before that event started. Let's see here. How do you think Minnesota's severe risk will perform? I'll dive into that in just a second because I haven't looked at any of the risk other than the enhanced risk today. That's the only place I've looked at in terms of severe weather, which that's your categorical right there. Let's see here. The timing of one of these disturbances in the Atlantic being named Dolly sometime in the future is so unfortunate. Yeah, R.I.P. Dolly Parton, man. That was very unexpected, very, very unexpected news. Very, very unfortunate. I wonder if there's a way the National Weather Service, or what is it? I forgot what it is. It's the meteorological service that actually can retire names. I wonder if they will retire it or skip that name. I don't think they'll retire, but maybe skip that name out of respect. We'll have to see, but I mean, it's literally, we could get Dolly like tonight or tomorrow. It's a 7070 AOI. We had a scan over it that revealed that it actually has a closed low with pretty good wind speeds, almost tropical storm force on the south to southeast side. So this is a borderline tropical storm, even though it looks horrific. It is a borderline tropical storm. And actually, that scan, you almost could probably get away with calling it a tropical storm. That's way out there in the main development region. Definitely keeping an eye on it. I think it's going to go out to sea, but there's some models that are wanting this to go towards Florida and the Gulf, which I highly disagree with. But whenever you have a model or an ensemble that's kind of hinting towards that west trend, you still got to pay attention to it. Even though the bulk of the models and ensembles take this out to sea, there's a few that have a reasonable solution to take it into Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, or maybe even as far west as Alabama and Mississippi. I highly doubt it will impact the U.S. directly, but it's still something that I want to keep an eye on. Again, I think it's just going to go out to sea and do absolutely nothing for the U.S., but I can't be for sure about that. As long as there's models that are suggesting it could have an attempt to go towards the U.S., I'm going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to keep an eye on it as long as there's models keeping that trend going towards the U.S. or near the U.S. It's something I want to watch. Let's see here. Hello from West Virginia. Hello, Drew. Glad to have you in here. Critty as well. Glad to see you in here, as well as Space, Johnny. Let's see. Tyler, glad to have you guys all in here. Do you think tomorrow's tornado threat goes 5% SIG 1? I'm going to be honest with you. I did look at that earlier today when they upgraded it to 5%. Straight up, I don't know why. I think the reason for the 5% upgrade is because it is Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan where the best tornado threat is, which is kind of where we've had the bulk of our tornado season this year. So if it wasn't 2026, I think this would be an absolute absurd tornado risk because I really don't see much, if any, potential tomorrow for a good tornado threat. I wouldn't rule out a brief tornado or two, but I really don't understand the reasoning for the 5%. But yeah, maybe they're getting ahead of it. Maybe tomorrow morning we get a huge uptrend, and they've already had the 5% out, so they don't need to upgrade. You never know. But most of the tornado risks in the last week or two outside of the mid-Atlantic have been a day of or night before downtrend. Hello, Cloud. Glad to see you in here. All right, let's go ahead and dive in a bit to the severe threat here across the U.S. So you'll notice the thumbnails all over the place. Man, there's so many risks, so many slight risks. It just looked like I did a polka dot map on the thumbnail. But I promise you, it's at least a little accurate because we do have the risk for severe weather up here in Minnesota, a larger risk for severe weather out here in the Western Plains. That highest risk, of course, going to be focused in that level 3 out of 5, the first enhanced risk in quite a hot minute out here for Texas. And that's in the northern panhandle, primarily for the risk of damaging wind gusts as high as 80 to maybe even a random gust as high as 90 if we can really get an MCS going in that area, being a possibility. And our greatest tornado risk today, we can't rule out a brief tornado in Texas, but the main risk is definitely going to be back up here into Minnesota and Wisconsin, where we can't rule out a brief tornado or two today. So that's your main two areas for severe weather today. There is a third small region where we do have some isolated strong storms in those blue polygons already ongoing across Georgia and Florida. Keep an eye out there for isolated 40 to 60 mile an hour winds, half-inch hail, and we can't fully rule out a brief tornado down there, but I highly doubt we actually get a tornado down in that region today. That's a very, very low risk. Then we move into tomorrow, and this is where this is what really made the thumbnail chaotic. We've got 3 different slight risks for severe weather in one day tomorrow. We have a slight risk out here across Wyoming, Colorado, and even into a sliver of New Mexico. A slight risk out here in Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, as well as into Mississippi. And a slight risk up here for Illinois, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana. All of you guys in that slight risk for severe weather. Of course, these are level 2 out of 5s for severe storms. With that greatest tornado threat Of course, going to be focused back up there into northern Indiana and maybe a sliver of southern Michigan and a small bit of northwest Ohio there. But the primary threat tomorrow is definitely going to be hail upwards of 3 inches in diameter, specifically in Colorado. But also, or rather, this is your hail risk. This is your hail risk here, up to 3-inch hail there in Colorado, and your wind risk is upwards of maybe 80-mile-an-hour winds down there in south central, southeastern Colorado, and a conditional risk for wind gusts upwards of 80 miles per hour into eastern New Mexico. So multiple areas to watch for severe weather tomorrow. None of them really interest me all that much. I think we will have some big time hail out there just off the Rockies in eastern Colorado. I do think we could get a gust of 70 or 80 in central to southern Colorado. Maybe that conditional risk of 70 to 80 in eastern New Mexico. Definitely possible. And then Arkansas, that's just your normal, ordinary summertime thunderstorms. Here's the composite reflectivity for tomorrow. And it's really just your ordinary thunderstorms here that we see very, very often in Arkansas. Just isolated 1-inch hail, isolated 60 to maybe 65-mile-an-hour winds. That wind threat is definitely the highest. Can't completely rule out a brief tornado in this area tomorrow, but it is extremely low. And like I said, I do think we'll get some big time hail back up here into Colorado tomorrow, late tomorrow evening into the very early nocturnal hours, upwards of 2.5, 3-inch hail there. And it wouldn't surprise me if we get a random microburst upwards of 70 to 80 miles per hour somewhere in this area as well. You could see the HRRR actually has that random microburst upwards of 80 miles per hour occurring out here into eastern New Mexico. So that's definitely a possibility of a random gust as high as 70 to 80 tomorrow, somewhere between north central Colorado and central to eastern New Mexico. I actually think they will upgrade this to a slight risk as well, because that seems to be pretty high confidence in some damaging winds just based off of this model alone. Which is never a good idea to just base it off of one model, but that's a lot of damaging winds being possible there. Just as much as the slight risk back up into Colorado. And like I said, out here for Arkansas, you just have those gusts upwards of 60 miles per hour. Like I said, maybe a gust as high as 65 can't be fully ruled out. But if we take a look at your tornado environment out here, it shouldn't be all that high. You can see this is your instability. A lot of cape. Upwards of 3,500 cape there. But for your tornado ingredients, not all that high. This is your significant tornado parameter, and you're only at about a half a number here. So we can't rule out a brief spin-up tornado. That means there might be a little bit of upper-level wind shear here, and you can see we do have the slightest bit of upper-level wind shear in this area. It's not all that high by any means, and a tiny bit of lower-level wind shear. Enough spin to where we could get some cool-looking storms, but probably not enough spin to where we have to worry about a tornado threat. But back up here into, this is the new run, so I have not seen this yet. And matter of fact, before we go into it, I'm actually going to switch to College of Dew page, so that way I could give you a bit better information, because I'm better at reading it on College of Dew page. This is the 18Z HRRR for tomorrow. Let's see if this is uptrended at all. And it definitely has. It definitely has, with the potential for some supercells tomorrow. You could see if we go to the older run, the 12Z, it didn't have but maybe an isolated supercell or two forming towards 7 p.m. And now the 18Z has some pretty well-defined 3, 4, maybe even 5 supercells out here in north central Indiana towards about 7 p.m. Eastern time, between 5 and, looks like the peak would be between 4 and 8, between 4 and 8 Eastern time. I don't think there's the need for a SIG-1 tornado risk, though, because we do not have barely any significant tornado parameter out here. We don't have a crazy amount of lower-level wind shear, but we do have some decent mid-level wind shear. So those storms definitely could be spinning in the mid-levels, and if we have locally stronger pockets of lower-level wind shear, we could get a tornado or two to touch down. And I do see the reasoning for that 5% TOR. It is definitely on a little bit more of the aggressive side of things compared to model guidance, but I see their reasoning for pulling that. We could see a few weak, brief spin-up tornadoes in this area tomorrow, so definitely stay weather aware in that region between 4 and 8 p.m. tomorrow, north of Indianapolis. That should be over the South Bend area. just southeast of Chicago into northwestern Indiana, north central, northeastern Indiana, all under the gun for a few tornadoes there. They will likely be weak and brief. We can't completely rule out a strong tornado, but I don't really see a good opportunity for that. It's not a lot of wind shear whatsoever. Not a lot of wind shear whatsoever. So 70-mile-an-hour winds, 1-inch hail, and a few weak, brief spin-up tornadoes possible in that area tomorrow between 4 and 8 p.m. Eastern. I bet tomorrow is going to downtrend like crazy. Then the event happens, multiple sectors. I don't think so. It looks like an okay event. It looks like an okay event. That's what it looks like to me. If I were out there, I would chase it 10 out of 10 times. So it looks like a okay event. It's not like a tornado outbreak, and it doesn't look like it's going to be like a bust. It's going to be your good mid-tier threat for a few spin-up weak tornadoes. Just your average tornado threat in August. I do want to see, where was that comment? I think that storms in Minnesota will honestly, you said, will is what I'm assuming you meant, will honestly struggle to even become severe. That looks pretty good, actually. That looks very good. I would expect a couple severe storms, and actually the tornado environment today is just as good as tomorrow, except tomorrow has a more semi-discrete mode, so storms might be able to take advantage of that environment a little bit more tomorrow than they can today. But today doesn't look half bad, actually, for even a brief tornado or two being possible. I am curious on NATOcast real quick. See what NATOcast... Yeah, NATOcast has a very large 2% tornado risk from up here in Canada all the way back down into Wisconsin. And then it has, for some reason, it has a tiny little 2% down here in Iowa and southern Minnesota. Maybe a conditional storm could fire off of that. You could see the changing with wind speeds, so definitely got a front there. But no initiation on this model run. Thank you, Guy, for becoming an EF1 member. I greatly appreciate that. Thank you for supporting the channel more than you already do. I appreciate that greatly. That's 2 new members today. That's like the most we've had in quite a while. So I appreciate you guys becoming members again today. I greatly appreciate it. It looks like that 2% tour on NATOcast is there because we do have actually a very favorable environment in terms of good lower level wind shear out here, almost actually over 200 0 to 1 kilometer SRH. So if a storm does fire there and is able to maintain, most likely with the high dew points you have, the good temperatures being in the mid to upper 70s and those dew points being in the low 70s, definitely a conditional tornado risk, even a conditional strong tornado threat, dare I say, out there in southern Minnesota. But it looks like the capping might win. You could see by the time the front gets there, the capping builds in. So that's a little conditional area there that you know, you could gamble on as a storm chaser on. If it fires, it's going to be very photogenic. But if it doesn't fire, it's a full-blown bust and absolutely nothing happens. So I think we just got here a severe thunderstorm watch just got issued out here in Minnesota. No surprise there. Yeah, I do think a couple of these storms are going to go severe, but notice how they're all clustered up together except for just a few. That's going to be what inhibits the tornado threat from doing too much today. I'm interested to see if anything does fire in southern Minnesota, though, because that's not a bad environment towards about 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. Thank you, Guy, for another membership, but this time you gifted a membership. Appreciate that greatly. And thank you for that. Really appreciate that. So you became a member, and now you've gifted one. I really appreciate that. What's up, Legacy? Glad to see you back in here. Hopefully you're doing well. Again, really appreciate that, Guy. Thank you. Let's go over to the day 3 risk for severe weather. We went over today at least somewhat. I do want to actually, before we go to the day 3 risk, I want to bring y'all back down to Texas just in case we have anyone watching from that area. The main risk definitely going to be focused in this region right up in here. And the primary threat is kicking off now, but the peak of this event won't start until about 7 or 8 Eastern. And you could see it looks pretty rough. This looks like a really good threat for damaging winds throughout a good chunk of the Panhandle. Almost the entire, if not the entire Panhandle, with the exception of the far northeast 2 or 3 counties. For the potential of widespread 40 to 70 mile an hour winds. And the reason why that range is so large is because some of these storms are, they look fairly weak. They look like just rain, but the downdraft actually, because you have you have a favorable environment out here for damaging winds, specifically downdrafts and microbursts there. You could get, even rain showers could produce 40 mile per hour winds. And those strongest storms, if you get a good line going like this, for instance, you get a good line going with a bow echo, wouldn't rule out a gust as high as 80. 90 mile per hour winds, like the title says here, that might be a bit of a stretch. That might be a bit of a stretch on my part, because it doesn't seem like this is really not very confident in an organized MCS. This is more of moderate to heavy rain showers producing damaging winds. And this is very common, very, very common out here. I'm not 100% sure what happens out in this area to make this happen so often. I'm imagining it's something to do with the Rocky Mountains, and as storms get off the Rocky Mountains and they go into a lower terrain area, and also the fact that you have such high temperatures out here too, and not the best dew point. So definitely some sort of microburst setup for sure. Definitely a microburst setup up here for the potential of widespread 40 to 70 mile an hour winds, and we could even get a few gusts upwards of 80 to 90 miles per hour today. Hail threat, very low, 1-inch hail. The biggest hail threat will be focused further into northern Colorado, back up here in southwestern Nebraska. So the main threat, if you live in the Panhandle of Texas, it's just a lot of wind. A lot of wind, a lot of rain, and some isolated lightning. Then we go on into our day 3 risk for severe weather. This is currently what it looks like. We have the risk for some damaging winds that could be significant. I imagine that gets upgraded to a slight risk by day 1 once confidence is higher on exactly where storms will fire across that area for the potential of 70 to 80 mile an hour winds. And then I do think this marginal could expand a bit further off to the south. I don't know if it would go as far south as my house, but I do think it could go further off to the south. And we'll have the risk for widespread 40 to 60 mile an hour winds. A random gust as high as 70 can't be ruled out. Also 1-inch hail and a brief tornado can't be ruled out either. And this is going to be for Thursday, by the way. That is day 3. Definitely looks like, yeah, that marginal, that's not a bad marginal by any means. They might push it a little south, but that actually looks pretty good. And then definitely a good reason to upgrade that to a slight risk. For sure, some good damaging wind potential there. And actually, StormNet, very weird for StormNet in this part of the country, is actually wanting a okay hail threat. Like, we're talking about maybe a hailstone a little greater than 1 inch in diameter up here in the Northeast, which is not all that common. But the primary risk, definitely damaging winds upwards of 70 miles per hour and hail upwards of maybe 1.5 inches in diameter. And a brief tornado can't be ruled out either. There is at least a very low tornado risk. We could see a 2% tor there, but it's nothing overly concerning tornado-wise. Thank you, Guy, for the $4 of donations. I apologize for missing that other one. Let me go back and heart it. Thank you for the $4 of donation. So that's you're a member now, you gifted a membership, and you've donated $4. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you. I really appreciate that. From Germany. Good morning, Caleb. You're live. You're live. I feel like I haven't seen you in the streams in a long time. You're only there at the end. Ad? You're the only one who complains about the ads, man. You're the only one who complains about them. What you got against ads, bro? I did forget to change it. There's this new thing called side-by-side ads that YouTube's been experimenting with, and now it's actually been fully released. So I'm thinking I might increase the ads a tiny bit. Right now they're way too much, so we're just gonna get rid of them altogether. But with side-by-side ads, it's a little bit better because it doesn't fully disrupt the video. But I don't know. I don't really want to. It's just an idea. I don't really want to be that big on ads. Not yet. Thank you for the now $6 guy. Very much appreciated. Side by side ads. So that's like what they do in NASCAR if you've ever watched that. What happens is it splits your screen. So the background is black, and on the left side it plays the video without audio, and on the right side it plays an ad with audio. But it's the same duration, so you'll still get like 5 to 15-second ads. The big problem is YouTube experimenting with those 60-second ads. I've gotten some of those, and no thank you. No thank you. Let's see. Gracious day. $10 now from Guy. Appreciate it. I have an ad blocker, so only one ad blocker I know works. That's the only one I know that works. I'm not going to mention it though because it's against TOS. But they're definitely really breaking down on ad blockers for sure. I know they've been breaking down on ad blockers big time. So if YouTube starts lagging or the stream randomly starts buffering, there's a very high chance it's your ad blocker interfering and not actually the stream. Unless there's a light rain shower around me. And then it's probably my stream. So let me go over to the NAM 3K. I want to see what this has. So yeah. You could see definitely a lot of storms, even well down into North Carolina. So I am curious if they'll bring that marginal down further into North Carolina and Virginia. It's possible. I don't think it's likely or needed right now. When we get closer, there's going to be higher confidence in storms may be firing or may not be firing. But it wouldn't surprise me if we do get that. Yeah, they'll probably bring that marginal further south into Virginia and North Carolina. But that primary risk for all hazards is for sure going to be right up in this corridor here. Right up in that corridor. Especially in central to southern New York and northeastern and north central Pennsylvania. Especially right up in here. That's going to be where your highest risk is, in that yellow area. Yeah, you better pop back up. And the SPC side at the top left keeps going down. So that's a quick look at your day 3 outlook there. Thank you, Guy, for another $2 donation there, and another one, and another one. I missed all those 3. Gracious. What is that, like 10 or 12? I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. It's greatly appreciated. Okay, now it's either 12 or 14. I believe that's 14. As for the tropics, it's very, very active in the tropics, especially in the Eastern Pacific. Going very, very well from my hurricane forecast earlier this year. Very much on track for a hyperactive hurricane season in the Eastern Pacific. But as for the Atlantic, I don't think we're going to be getting 8 to 10 named storms out there in the Atlantic. I think we're going to get another... What are we on? This will probably be the 4th named storm of the season. I still think we could get, we're not even into September. Maybe we could get another 2 or 3 out of this. We might be able to get as much as 8 named storms, depending on how favorable the dry air is. I think that's a big key factor. Wind shear, most likely going to be a big issue, and that's going to keep the basin from getting double-digit named storms. But dry air could help if it gets favorable enough. It could help sneak in a named storm or two out here in the main development region, and then maybe a named storm or two back out here towards the Northwest Caribbean and the Gulf. But the Pacific, that thing's going ham. I think this one might become a hurricane. Okay, they actually took that away. It's not forecast to be a hurricane anymore. If it was, I forgot which one of these. There's been so many, y'all. There's been so many. There's been so many out here. One of these were forecasted to become a hurricane, and it may have been a hurricane, or they might have downgraded it already. There's been so many I've lost track. There's been so many I've lost track. I could tell you that. We also had that violent typhoon. It was briefly a violent typhoon, but it actually never got to a super typhoon, and it never really fully reached its potential. But you can see that right now out here south of Taiwan. I'm unfamiliar with what these islands are. And it's northeast of Taiwan, not southwest. Northeast of Taiwan, southwest of Japan. East of China, northeast of Taiwan, southwest of Japan. But I'm unfamiliar with those islands. And then we could get a brief tropical depression out in the subtropical Atlantic out there southeast, almost due east, southeast of Maine. But this is the little guy here I want to keep an eye on. You could see the actually, it's kind of split now. See, that's why I didn't want to write this off as a fish storm. I think it's likely to be a fish storm, but there's a fairly good amount now of ensembles that are taking this towards the Dominican Republic and the Bahamas. So I don't want to write this off as a fish storm. Again, I think it's more likely to go as a fish storm, but we could get something to go towards the Bahamas in about 10 days or so. That's very far out, which is why I'm not very confident in it, but I wouldn't write that off as a fish storm. I know a few weather YouTubers who have definitely already hit that check mark as this is going to be another fish storm, but I'm not so quick on that one. I'm not trying to hype or anything. I just don't want to. What I don't want to do is I don't want to tell you, yeah, it's going to be a fish storm, and then it starts becoming a tropical storm and heads towards the Bahamas and Florida. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to make you think that this is something you don't have to watch. It's still hurricane season, although I extraordinarily doubt this is going to become a hurricane. It is still possible for some tropical rain or a tropical depression to go towards land, whether it be the Dominican Republic, Cuba, the Bahamas, Florida. It is not entirely impossible. And this is the Google AI ensembles, and they have a very wide variety here of what could happen. You could see some of these take it right out to sea, which I do think is most likely, but others kind of have a close call here to the Bahamas, and there's even a few further out here that take it into the Gulf. We also have the European ensembles, and you can see the European ensembles, the bulk of them want it to die right as it gets towards the Lesser Antilles. So there's a lot of uncertainty with it. Either way, a tropical storm or depression will likely form. And it's likely going to head towards the direction of the Bahamas and Florida. Whether or not it curves away before it gets to the Bahamas and Florida, that is something we don't know. Or if it goes into Florida and the Bahamas, we do not know. But one of those is going to happen. And I will say, either way, whether or not it hits Florida, the Bahamas, or goes out to sea, any of those scenarios, I do think it is likely to be weak. A weak tropical storm or a tropical depression or even just a tropical wave and not even named. The only thing that is aggressive with this is on Weather Nerds here. We go to the GFS ensembles, which is called the GEFS ensembles. This was the only aggressive thing, and it's actually not even aggressive anymore. You could see some of them, if we pull this back further, some of them do have a strong tropical storm, very weak hurricane in the middle of the Atlantic, But actually, this has backed off. This has backed off a lot since I last looked at it. This is what it was earlier this morning. You could see the bulk of these were actually a strong tropical storm to weak hurricane. So actually, this has backed off too. So I think, and look at the shift. Look at the shift to the south. Definitely a south shift. 100%. 100% a south shift. So if this goes right out to sea like this, there is a chance it becomes a strong tropical storm or hurricane. If it heads towards the United States and towards the Bahamas, towards Florida, it's most likely going to stay a tropical depression or weak tropical storm. So I don't want you to just not pay attention to it. I want you to keep an eye on it, especially if you live on the eastern seaboard here in the U.S. I definitely want you to keep an eye on it, as well as if you live in the Lesser Antilles back up into Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico. Definitely keep an eye on it. I would be watching. I'd be watching in Bermuda and the eastern seaboard. I would be watching in this area. Actually, that goes all the way from... It's likely going to curve out further with time, so, you know, not really past North Carolina. That's really the area I would be watching, right in there. And the Bermuda. Keep an eye all in that area. Watch that area of interest. You don't have to worry, but it's something I would watch. Again, it is hurricane season, so this is a very friendly reminder from Mother Nature just to let you know. Get that hurricane preparedness plan finished. Get it ready to go just in case we do end up with a landfalling tropical storm or hurricane in the U.S. this season. It's possible, although unlikely, with the likely super El Nino that we are in. It is unlikely, but not impossible. So better safe than sorry. So what you're saying is that we're going to get a Cat 5 for Florida. Nope. Nope. I'm not saying that. But, I mean... I was going to say something, but I don't want to panic anybody. Not going to panic anybody. I thank you for the additional $6-ish. The guy, appreciate it. Central Georgia, good. You do have some isolated storms to your south, but I think you're relatively good. Georgia's kind of in this hole here. I really think Georgia's going to be perfectly fine through the next 3 days or so. If we look to the south, we can't rule out some isolated 30, 40 mile an hour winds Thursday afternoon. But the Storm Prediction Center, which is the meteorological service out here in the U.S., they don't have you highlighted in a risk for severe weather at the moment. The main severe threat today is for sure going to be Texas and northeastern Minnesota. Also, that could stretch into Colorado a little bit more too. And then tomorrow, the main severe threat is going to be in Colorado with isolated gusty winds in Arkansas and a few tornadoes being possible up in Indiana. Day 3, the main risk will be 1.5-inch hail, 60 to 70 mile an hour winds, and maybe a brief spin-up tornado in this area right up in here. I think that green area, which is the level 1 out of 5, I think that could shift to the south, maybe even as far south as Georgia. But nothing that bad for Georgia. Nothing that bad for Georgia. Just your ordinary August severe storms. They still need to, keep an eye on them because they could disrupt your plans going into Thursday evening around dinner time or just after. But nothing that you need to to really watch in the terms of something that could be life-threatening. But definitely something I would keep an eye on if you have any outdoor plans on Thursday in Georgia. I don't believe these storms in the eastern panhandle of Texas were expected right now. I don't think those were really anticipated. If we go down here, the NAM3K actually anticipated them. The HRRR did not until now. NAM3K being better than the HRRR. That's how bad the HRRR has been. HRRR so bad, the NAM 3K is better. Like, what? Is my, like, left mouse button not working over here? There we go. Yeah. Yeah. I believe you're clear already from today. The main threat is to your south. And Thursday, I don't even think on Thursday you'll be in the biggest risk. The biggest risk on Thursday in the state of Georgia would probably be on the northern side, towards Atlanta and north. So, yeah, you're probably very you're probably clear. You're probably clear. I'd still watch out for some isolated storms Thursday, but nothing notable. I do think I'll be in the risk for severe weather Haley on Thursday. Yeah. 20 pounds, $27 plus one membership, $32. Oh, $32. Thank you for the calculation, Caleb. Thank you for the donos, guy. I greatly appreciate it. I do know we have some long-term severe weather to keep an eye on. This is really a good pattern for severe weather in the Rockies. Not really anything too notable into the central U.S. We did have that random tornado event. Actually, I believe it was a regional tornado outbreak. If I'm not mistaken, 6+ tornadoes confirmed out there. Like right out in this area, right in here. So that was actually a regional tornado outbreak. And then we could get a few brief tornadoes in northwest Indiana tomorrow, but nothing big tornado-wise. We're just going to keep with these mesoscale days. It's very, very common. I want to keep stressing that. This is not an extraordinarily rare stretch. This is the time of the year where you get high plains and just off the Rockies, severe storms. Very, very, very common to get severe weather in this portion of the country. This time of the year.
Flash flood warning has been issued.
I gotta fix that. I'll fix that after stream. I got rid of the flash flood warning scrolling at the bottom, but not the ones that pop up. Fix that later tonight if I can remember. So this is very, very common this time of year to see severe storms like we've been seeing. It's nothing extraordinarily different or new or historic. We are watching some severe potential, maybe some better severe potential. Going into Saturday, I did notice that the SPC was highlighting an area of potential severe weather, but they have not highlighted it because some models like the GFS show a weaker trough. If we get a stronger trough like what the Euro and the Canadian show, particularly, it's actually not particularly a stronger trough. I'm noticing it right now as I'm looking at this. It's actually more to do with instability. The Canadian and the Euro have a lot of CAPE, and the GFS has not a lot. So it's more to do with CAPE, less to do with the trough there. So if we get more CAPE, we'll likely see severe weather, maybe a bit of a significant severe weather threat out in here. That will be possible on Saturday, but the GFS doesn't want that. So it's very up in the air. It is very up in the air. Is Canada good? I do focus on the U.S. because I know more of U.S. geography than Canada. Really the only area I cover in Canada every now and then, I've covered southern Saskatchewan and southern Ontario and far southern Quebec. I know there's severe weather possible up here near International Falls. There's some isolated strong storms possible up there, brief tornado. So it depends. Can't really say, is Canada okay? I need a bit more specifics than that. That's like saying, is North America okay? Because Canada's fairly large. Canada is fairly large. That's a small... It's not really a small area to forecast. Gracious, what are you trying to buy me, guy? I don't know of any that cost that much unless you're talking about, like, very, very aged drinks that are like exotics. Actually chased the tornado threat in Canada yesterday. I know that Canada has some good chasing terrain, especially out here in southern Saskatchewan. I want to say this is Manitoba, but I don't know that very well. I don't know my provinces extremely well. I know that this is Saskatchewan right here, and I know this is Ontario, and this is Quebec. I want to say this is Manitoba. This is like British Columbia. I have a feeling that's extremely wrong. And then I don't know what you are. Let's see. Let's see how right I am. I'm pulling up a map right now. Oh my word, it actually is British Columbia. Alberta. That's what that is. And this is Manitoba. Okay, I was off. I was off actually. So this is British Columbia. This is actually Alberta here. Then this is Saskatchewan. This is Manitoba. And then, of course, I did get Ontario and Quebec. I know because I have a friend that lives in Ontario, so I know that. And Quebec is easy because it literally says Quebec right there. And I ain't even gonna lie to you, I didn't even know these had Providence names. How do you even pronounce these? There's more Providences than I thought. There's like 5 more Providences that I've never heard of. Radar says they are. I mean, it's nothing big. If you just mean storms as in like rain showers, it's possible for isolated rain tonight, likely to be very light rain. Tomorrow, it's possible for isolated thunderstorms, but most likely nothing more than 30-mile-an-hour winds. And then Thursday's the day I would be watching for a little bit better chances of some thunderstorms. This particular model run has a little bit stronger storms making its way through southeast of Atlanta towards noon. But really, all these storms in Georgia, they're just going to be upwards of 30-mile-per-hour winds, and they're going to be mainly the best. The highest concern is heavy rain and some lightning. I don't know, maybe a delivery. Thank you for the additional donation there. Geography 101 with TRG. I could name you every U.S. state in less than 2 minutes, about a minute and actually, I think my record is like a minute and like 10 minute and 20 seconds, something like that. I can name and point every U.S. state out, but once you get anywhere out of the U.S., I'm not good. I can tell you the a few of the countries out in this area, but I get rough. I'm very, very rough. And the Providences in Canada, I only know like 2. And that's because there's really, I don't track out that way. There's really not a giant reason for me to know anything outside of the US over there. I know just roughly some stuff. I've almost been graduated for 4 years now, so, and I hated geography. Hated geography with a passion. Hello, Jefferson. Glad to see you in here. Geography and history. I did not like that. I only know my U.S. states because I track severe weather in them, and I have to know because I do the weather. Let's see. Thoughts on Chicago area for tomorrow? It's going to be a close one, but I think the worst will stay to your east. I would watch for some isolated thunderstorms towards noon, right around there. Maybe a little bit before noon, around 11 a.m., 12 p.m. And then also watch out when more storms fire towards about 3, 4 p.m. I'd keep an eye on that. But I think the worst is going to be to your east. I think the worst storm activity tomorrow will be right out in this area with that absolute highest potential right in here. So I think the bulk of our stuff tomorrow will stay to your east. You're welcome. Thank you for asking questions. I appreciate it. Helps this live stream not just be dead silence when I have questions to answer. I love supporting small creators. Well, I appreciate the support greatly. It's really, really, really appreciated. I really appreciate it. That's been like the most donations that I've had in like months, but that's more of on my end though, not on y'all's end, because I'm not as active as I used to be on this channel. I've kind of drifted a little away from weather, especially the last 2 months. So we'll see. We'll see how active I can be in the weather world. Hello, Kevin. You're tuning in towards the end. Unfortunately, I don't have any extra time to do overtime today. I gotta clock out at my scheduled distance. The boss is busy. I gotta clock out at my usual top of the hour in terms of how long the live stream's gone. It's so nice outside. I have plans with my family, and it's so nice. I want to have a good 2-3 hours outside. It has been pretty nice yesterday, and it has been very nice today. Do we support that 5% tomorrow? Yeah, yeah, I do. I think it's barely 5% worthy, but I support it with the newer model data that we've been getting. And thank you again for another donation, guy. Appreciate it. It's got to be closing in on like $40 now donated today. At first, like when I woke up this morning, I did not by any means support the 5% tour, but the afternoon runs kind of came in a little bit more surprising than the morning runs, to the point where I do. Real quick. Let's see. Before I forget, I'm just going to go ahead and disable those flash flood alerts, because that will make it easy. Oh, you guys could see it pulled up. Hold on, let me get that off. I didn't know y'all could see that. Get it out of there. There you go. Now those flood alerts. In real time, we've gotten rid of those flood alerts. Let me just double check on that. Yeah, they're gone. That way, we don't get flooded. I get it. Flooded. I'm sorry. And we don't get flooded with those alerts. And they used to like duplicate and give us, if there was like 12 flash flood warnings, we'd get like 24 or 30 notifications. It got so absurd one point, to the point where I just turned them all off. Huck in Minnesota. Yeah, there's a report of something too. I thought you said this stuff wasn't going to go severe. Yeah, Funnel reported on that too. That actually needs a tornado warning. That actually needs a tornado warning. So right when I hop off, don't be surprised if we get a tornado here going towards Cotton. That looks very good. That's an imminent tornado. If I'm in front here towards Cotton and Kelsey, get to your safe spot. If you are in that white box right there, there you go. Little custom watch out box right there. If you're in that white box, get to your safe spot. That's where I believe a tornado is imminent. With that hook echo and a funnel already being reported. The thing is, our low-level wind shear isn't really, really good today. It's actually a little bit lower today than what... Actually, I think it's a little higher today than what it will be tomorrow. The big problem with today's event is not enough discrete storms. But we have this storm that is almost all by itself. And so it's going to be able to take advantage of that slightly favorable environment for tornadoes today. There's not a lot of wind shear. Not a lot of wind shear at all out here. There is just, according to mesoanalysis, roughly 60 0 to 1 and roughly 90 0 to 3. So not a lot of wind shear whatsoever out here. But there is enough for a funnel cloud or two, and one of those funnels could end up being a tornado. If it manages to touch down. We do have a 2% tour up here after all, so we can't rule out a brief tornado. Do you go live when the weather is bad or daily streams? I go live when I go live. It used to be daily live streams, and sometimes it is, especially when we get into active tornado season, like March, April, and even into May, sometimes even into a bit of June. We have done very frequent live streams, like 5 to 7 streams a week. But we're going towards hurricane season and soon winter, and that's when the channel normally starts to slow down, and I stop doing a lot of streams. So it's a mixture. Sometimes we're live just to talk about stuff like today. I didn't really plan on really talking about any active storms, but we do have this funnel that could become a tornado here in Minnesota towards Cotton, so get to your safe spot there. So it just depends. And I have missed some tornado outbreaks before because I'm busy with real life stuff. So it just simply depends. I'm not always available, and I'm not always watching the weather. I try to be always watching the weather, but it doesn't go too well all the time. But yeah. Anyways, that's going to do it for this live stream. Like I said, I don't have any time to do overtime today. Got to clock out normally right at the hour. So I appreciate you guys for being here. Definitely was a little bit of a shorter live stream, but once more, I want to go enjoy the very nice weather outside before I get 10 days of 90 degrees. Not going to be fun. So I appreciate the support today, especially from Guy with all those extra donos, about $40-ish worth, roughly, of donations there. I greatly appreciate it. And thank you everybody else for tuning in. If you are just tuning in and you're new to the channel, I do ask, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button on this stream, share the stream and channel with your family, friends, social media, and on your way out, hit that subscribe button with a notification bell set to all so you know when I go live in whenever that may be. I'm not sure when it will be. I might have a live stream in the next 2 days. We'll see about this upcoming severe threat. It might warrant a live stream if I have enough time to. If not, just stay tuned. Regardless, to your local National Weather Service office and Storm Prediction Center and National Hurricane Center for the best and most accurate information. And as always, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe, watch the severe weather, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye. stay safe, have a great rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next one. Goodbye.